Hello, I'm Maddie, Kendra Nielsen's COO, and welcome to episode 162, Maximize Your Life, Overcoming Stuck Points and Unlocking Personal Growth with Tara Wiskow on Fulfillment Therapy. Today we'll be listening to Kendra's interview on Be the Change You Need podcast. In this eye-opening episode, Tara Wiskow and Kendra talk about practical insights, expert advice, on overcoming personal obstacles, breaking unhealthy patterns, and achieving growth for a more fulfilling life. Stay tuned.
All right, I am so excited to bring to you Kendra Nielsen to our podcast episode today. Kendra is a licensed therapist, coach. She's a personal trainer and founder of Fulfillment Therapy. She's dedicated to helping parents strengthen families through self-development. Drawing from her background in clinical counseling, Kendra focuses on positive, solution-oriented therapy to empower personal growth and increase fulfillment by healing trauma. She addresses neglected needs and proactively implements incremental growth strategies for her clients. Kendra lives in Idaho with her husband and 4 children, and she enjoys outdoor play, pranks, and creative cuisine. It sounds like everything that I love. For sure. I don't know so much the creative cuisine though, because I'm a bit of a picky eater and scared to try new things, but it sounds cool. Well, welcome, Kendra. I'm so excited to have you. I'd love if you just took a little bit to share with the Be the Change You Need listeners just who you are and why it's amazing that they get this opportunity to spend some time with you today.
Thank you for having me. It is always a funny place to start, like, oh, look at me. I do all these amazing things. So I will lean into that and share a little bit about myself. Really, you said most of it. I started this business. I can't even remember how long ago now, but Fulfillment Therapy. I am a podcaster of Fulfillment Therapy and have a private practice as well with my counseling clients. And then I have coaching clients, all of those things. I don't really do much personal training anymore, but I love working out, doing all of those things. Side note, Tara, I noticed, this sounds so funny, but I noticed your muscles and I was like, oh, I love muscles on girls. I think it's just because I've been weightlifting for so long that it's just so beautiful to see toned arms or like healthy bodies, especially as we age. Just so I really was admiring those, just, creative cuisine. It was just about like really fun foods. I love vegetables. I love farm to table stuff. I love it when I don't know half of the ingredients and I'm like, this is going to be such an adventure, that kind of thing.
I think we've had a few experiences with farm to table and it's been really interesting. I was a little hesitant at first to experience it because I wasn't really sure, like, did it just like come off the farm like literally minutes before? I overthink all of this, but the times that we went, it's been really, really awesome and definitely healthy. Love the healthy element of that for sure. So very cool. Well, again, thank you for being here. I'm so excited to get to know you a little bit more beyond what we've already touched base on prior to hitting record and recording this episode. I think the first question I have for you is, what 3 things from what you have experienced in this journey, doing the work that you do, what do you think are the 3 things that would be most beneficial for women or even men to focus on when trying to become their best selves? Like healing trauma? Is it addressing those neglected needs? Is it implementing proactive incremental growth? Like, what do you think are the 3 most important things?
When I think about my clients, the different things that I've done with them, it really does begin with that healing. And it is one of those things that everybody wants to race through. Like that can look a lot of different ways. For some of us, honestly, probably for a lot of us, that can be therapy or some sort of emotional healing or acknowledging what happened to you as a child, like your child self, that really challenging situations. And maybe they weren't even that hard for your siblings or other people that might have gone through something similar, but for you, they were big barriers that are keeping you stuck even still. Trauma, it's like it doesn't stop happening. And there's a lot of reasons that I could go into deeper, like why that occurs. But really, it's like we can't move on. We are just stuck in that hole until we are ready to acknowledge those things. And there's a number of ways that we can do that. But where I start with my clients is learning to have validation for ourselves, learning to have that self-compassion, mourning with ourselves. And there's some beautiful moments that I've had with clients in therapy where they're able to let go of maybe their ego or minimizing what's happened to them, but just really be aware of it. And as they offer themselves that acceptance or that validation, then they can let it go. And that is so key to transitioning to this higher plane of living. I don't know if I'm sure that you have had different things in life that have been these stuck points for you. But like for me, I had a lot of challenges overcoming big things that happened as a young child. Like my dad died really tragically. And then later on in life, my brother did as well. And then other things like abuse or these different things that were just really hard to move on from. So that was one of those things that like I really had to come face to face with as I got older. And yeah, so that healing at first is that validation specifically for that healing. And then that second part, I would say, is I guess I want to go to those neglected needs. Like a lot of my clients are like, what are you talking about with neglected needs? And some people kind of have an idea, but I think about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It's just a pyramid. And on the bottom are those basic needs. And then there's the psychological needs. And then there's those self-fulfillment needs. And a lot of us have those basic needs met, like food and shelter. Not always, but typically we do. We have that stuff covered. But it's the rest of the pyramid that we kind of get stuck. It's like, how are we with our connection with our friends or with our family members? How are we with work and feeling the sense of accomplishment? Those types of things. Like that's often where I see people. And then above that is filling your potential, becoming your highest self, being a creator instead of a consumer. Well, and you don't see many people in that realm. And that's where true joy comes. So I tell people that progress equals happiness. Progress equals fulfillment. So there's healing, but then there's also that action phase. So that would be that progress. Like, okay, what is that next thing that I can do to lean in now that I've healed? So yeah, I would say it's that healing, then it's that progress, and then it's making that action plan and advocating for yourself, being assertive, creating boundaries, creating more balance, and leaning in and then doing something about it and not stopping. Sometimes that's daunting for people, but it's very key to continuing that cycle of fulfillment and joy, truly. I know that was kind of a long answer. I apologize for that, but yeah,
No,
in a nutshell.
Yeah, well, and I think that the work that both you and I do, there are long answers to this. There is no really, there's a lot of gray area that we have to cover. Everybody's different. Everybody's diverse in their experiences. And I apologize for the loss of your dad and your brother and to have that at a young age. I always say that what we go through young is what creates who we become. And those experiences have led you to be someone that feels fulfillment is important, and you help people to experience that. And so the other thing I love to say is every evil has a blessing. And I look at that, the blessing that came from those really traumatic experiences for you is something that benefits the world overall. So I thank you for doing that and bringing that healing through yourself to help us, the rest of the world that touch base with you, to be able to heal as well. I do want to ask too, when you say validate like the traumatic experiences, things like that, I work with women. Women are my space. That's who I work with. And as a woman, Kendra, we don't validate ourselves in trauma. Like we tell ourselves we shouldn't feel trauma. We're just supposed to be Wonder Woman and nothing is supposed to affect us because we're always supposed to be spot on. We're always supposed to be taking care of everything. So can you break it down in the best words that you've got for my listeners, my women? What does it mean to validate the trauma?
I'm going to respond indirectly here. But one thing I tell my clients too, because they're like, I don't know what that looks like. I don't know how to do that. Well, a lot of my clients are also women. A lot of them are parents, and this will help with parents, but you can shift it if you're not a parent to like maybe a niece or a nephew or somebody else, some child that you know and love. But I want you to think about when that toddler or that child is really upset or has something really terrible happen to them. Maybe a best friend was really mean to them, whatever, something really hard happened. And instead you say to them, you're fine, get over it. It's not a big deal. Like there's so many other worse things. Or even in just like a nice voice, maybe you're distracting them. Maybe you're like, they're dumb anyway. Who cares? Whatever you're doing, it's not validating. But think about a time when instead of doing that, you just open your arms, they ran to your arms, and you just like stroked their hair. You just rocked them and you said, I know, I'm so sorry. It's so hard. And there's just this softness, this tenderness. And I tell my clients, like, I want you to do that for yourself. And we do these mindfulness exercises, like, or hypnotherapy, just like really accessing that, like really being able to picture yourself, maybe at a certain age when those things were happening, whatever that is. I have them even close their eyes, listen to music, whatever they can to tune me out and just visualize offering themselves that like soft tenderness, that validation, that acknowledgement that what they went through was hard and it wasn't fair and it was terrible and it hurts and there's feelings involved in that. And it's okay to acknowledge those. You don't have to shut those down. We are really good as a culture at shutting things down, and it's got to stop. And once that happens, Tara, that's where the joy and the growth and the beauty comes, but not before.
Love that. One of the things that I really work hard with bringing awareness to women, my clients, others, is that oftentimes when trauma or triggers happen, it's our inner child. We all have our inner child. She's still with us. You know,
Right.
even though our age is what it is, like I'm 45, my inner child at 5 years old, 3 years old, she's still there. And oftentimes when we don't validate those emotions, and I don't know, chime in if you feel that differently in this, when we don't validate those emotions, we're really telling our inner child that she doesn't matter. Her feelings don't exist, and that she just, like you said, get over it and just figure out a way to deal with this without actually healing through it. And it's like putting that rug, right? You're just putting the stuff under the rug, and eventually you're going to start tripping over that rug because you can only put so much under the rug before you are going to find that it's in the way. There's just too much stuff and you've got to get rid of it. And then it's rotten, gross stuff that's hard to work through. So I love that you're teaching that validation right away, to hear yourself, to feel your feels, to be okay with the fact that you are struggling. Because you hear that all the time, right? Like, I don't have it as bad as everybody else, but this is difficult. It's not about everybody else. It's about you. This is you, right? I love that. So when you're working with families, do you work with full families and in the whole entire space of it? Or is it one person in the family and then that support trickles down to everybody else? Talk to us about that.
Yeah, I've done both, but I honestly prefer to work with one or even the couple because that's where true change seems to happen. But yeah, there's openness the more that you have a smaller group. There can be with a bigger group, but yeah, I prefer just to work with parents or one, either the woman or the husband. At first, I just loved working with women, but it's been really fun to work with the men as well and to break that stigma and help them be more open to feelings and processing and all of this stuff. It's really, really amazing.
And when you talk about fulfillment, I think this is a word that is not understood. Like, what does fulfillment mean? So what is it? If somebody were to come up to you and say, okay, Kendra, so you want to talk about fulfillment, you work in that space, what is it? Why do I want to feel fulfilled in life?
Yeah, it is kind of one of those loaded words because it's not exactly happiness, because I think sometimes you can be happy and not feeling fulfilled. But kind of what I went back to before, I feel like it really is just hand in hand with progress. It's leaning into things. It's reaching for something more. It's becoming your highest self. It's fulfilling your higher potential. It's not just being stagnant. It's not being okay with mediocrity. Well, maybe there's periods where that can happen, right? That's not like that shame part, but it is, it's letting go of complacency. it's a reaching. I always picture like a reaching, but not with exhaustion. Maybe there's moments where that's there, but it's with like, no, like I am ready for more. I know that I was made for more, but again, not in this space of I can't be present and happy with my life, but I am going to continue to develop myself in ways that will bless my life and the lives of others.
So why would someone want to experience fulfillment in life?
Maybe, is it okay if I turn that back on you? Why would you want to experience fulfillment in life?
Well, yeah, absolutely. Something that I've come to understand is that when I feel fulfilled, I am doing my best work. And that's important to me as a weight loss and mindset coach for women, is that if I'm filling my cup, I once was told by a therapist back many years ago, she said, Tara, you're trying to give from an empty bank account. You're emotionally overdrawn and you're not filling it back up. And so I guess I look at it that way of fulfillment is actually like giving things that you need. And when you do that, you have plenty to be able to give out to make a difference. And I feel like when I live a life that's fulfilled, I am living the purpose I'm supposed to live. I am fully being who I was created to be, who I'm meant to be. And that means that my message that is going out to the world is the exact message that's supposed to be going out there, and not one that's fake or inauthentic. That's, I don't know. What are your thoughts? Anything that I maybe missed?
No, I really love that. I like hearing about different people's perspectives on that for sure. I feel like as a culture, we're often so quick to give ourselves those really fast dopamine hits. And that's another word for that is like escapism. Well, and let me explain what I mean by that. It's media, like screens. Oh, we are so terrible when it comes to just zoning out on screens. Like we just rotate from one to the next. And then it's also shopping. It could be food. It could be, oh my gosh, there's so many different things that we escape with, but these are just really quick fixes. But these are not the things that bring us greater fulfillment and happiness. It can even be excessively going to the gym or being really healthy, but mostly I see those things as healthy outlets, more adaptive outlets. But it's those things that really will help you become your higher self instead of it just being this way to zone out and not become, I keep going back to that, but not become your higher self. So do those things leave you feeling unfulfilled, or is that creating an unhealthy balance in your life? Like, I don't know, have you noticed that even in yourself, like where sometimes these things in your life might be good, but it is preventing you becoming more of who you want to become?
Yeah, absolutely. Why do you think we do that? Why do you think that we take part in things that take us away from being our best self?
It's easier. It does take more dedication for sure to do those things that will challenge us. And a lot of times we say, oh, you know what? I just don't know where to start. I don't know what to do. But really, I think I bring this up all the time, but that quote, if it's important to you, you'll find a way. If not, you'll find an excuse. And it goes back to this scarcity mindset. Like I remember there's been many times in my life when I have not invested in myself, and I've struggled with a scarcity mindset. Like there's not enough time. There's not enough money. I have 4 children and sometimes 5 with an exchange student. Like I don't have time to invest in myself. I don't have time to do that when I'm investing in my kids. So one of my favorite parts about being a parent is I love to help them develop their talents. So I noticed that I was driving them all over to have private lessons or be in sports or these dance performances, all of the things, everybody. And there came a point when I was like, wait a second, I'm not doing that for myself. And I am like, just what you were saying, Tara, like I am feeling like I'm on empty. I'm not refueling. And while I'm going to the gym and I'm doing some of these other things, I'm trying to do that maintenance. I still feel like I'm missing that key thing of like creation or developing something more, becoming who I want to become through creative outlets that I haven't explored for a really long time. And so I realized like, okay, there needs to be a course correction here. that balance needs to shift a little bit more, because ultimately I want my kids to grow up and say, as an adult, I am going to continue to nurture my gifts, my talents, my strengths, so that I can help others, I can improve my family life. And that is somewhat of a paradox, right? Like, I feel like people think if I'm going to give to my family, I can't give to myself or whoever it is, with family or not. And that's just not true. Actually, do you mind if I share a quote with you that I like?
I love quotes, so please do.
Okay. This one is by Jim Rohn. He said, the key to helping others is to help to help yourself first. And people are like, wait, what? The best contribution I can make to someone else is my own personal development. If I become 10 times wiser or 10 times stronger, think of what that will do for my adventure as a parent, as a business colleague, as a friend. And I was like, you can't see it, but I'm like mind blown. I was like, yes, because there's a stigma, and sometimes we overcorrect as a society and we're way too selfish. And then on the other side, we're way too giving, and it's finding that balance.
So true. When you say overcorrect, like break that down. What exactly? Because my women right now are listening. Like I get the giving piece because all I do is give, and give, right? Like that's just like going. I can just see them. But what does it mean to overcorrect? Like break that down a little bit.
Sure. So, well, I'll just give some self-disclosure, some transparency here. Like, especially for me before, that was like I'd spend a lot of the day, like I'd be working or whatever. Sometimes some point I was home with the kids more, but I would either be cleaning the house most of the day, I would be or working at a job, and then the evenings would be spent like cooking, cleaning, putting kids to bed, taking them to things, and there was just no time left for myself. And then I would get home, and then I felt like then I had even the words that I'm about to use show what I was thinking, but then I had to give to my husband. Like he just felt like another person that needed me, and you just start to grow in that resentment and that anger for your children, for your spouse, for your loved ones, even friends, whoever it is. And when you notice that volcano rising of that resentment, when you notice more reactivity, when you notice that you're just more snippy with people, or just not smiling as much, and you feel more tension in your shoulders, when you feel weary, when it's hard to wake up, that's when you notice that you're not becoming your best self. That's what I feel like so often is the reason for depression. And we rarely talk about that in society. And I don't know why. We want to, and I do think there's absolutely a place for medication at times, but instead of really just putting a Band-Aid on something, let's talk about what's going on in our lives and what's the core reason. A lot of it goes back to not healing those wounds. And it goes back to not seeking something more, just being okay with those quick dopamine hits that I talked about, being okay with escapism. I feel like I'm giving you a lot of information for everything you ask. I apologize.
I love it. I mean, you don't know me. I mean, you're coming to know me. My listeners are like, oh, this woman just gives all, I go on tangents. I'm like, oh shit, what was I just talking about? And we have to go back. So you're like, you're right at home. As I say, the hallways of the podcast, you fit right into the hallways. So no worries at all.
I'm glad to hear it.
For me, like that, like self-acceptance, that is a big piece, and something that I'm stepping out to actually do is my motivational speaking thing, which I've not done. And it's been as everything we're talking about, right? Not giving to my family and neglecting myself, but it's self-abandonment. And I feel like we as women self-abandon, and men do this too. I'm not discounting you men that are listening. I'm not telling you that you don't matter and that you're not important, because you are. I have 3 boys and a husband, and they're my world. So men matter, but what I find in that space of women is we self-abandon all the time and not show up for ourselves. And I think that, you know, what you probably find, Kendra, is that that's where that lack of fulfillment happens, is because we're self-abandoning ourselves. We're not giving ourselves what we need. We're overcorrecting in what we do, and we feel all those feels. And I feel one of the biggest reasons we self-abandon is fear of saying yes to ourselves, fear of being ourselves, fear of being okay with being who we are and having our own opinion and possibly pissing somebody off because we've got the opinion we have. What's 2 to 3 steps that you feel or you encourage your clients or anyone to overcome fear of accepting yourself or stepping into your authentic space? How do you help someone over that?
Oh, that is a good question. Let's see. Let's see if I can not go on a giant tangent and just give it to you a little more succinctly. I will do my best. Well, it just reminds me of what you're saying. Like when we say yes to ourselves more, that really means there's the advocacy piece, which comes down to assertiveness again. And I'm always really surprised when I break this down with my clients that most of them think that they're actually quite assertive. But then I get like their partner there. Then I get like a family member there and they're like, no, I had no idea that she was like trying to advocate for herself or being assertive. And you realize that they're not, often very passive, sometimes when they're really resentful, more aggressive. But I think it would be learning greater assertiveness, learning how to set and maintain boundaries, and then acting on those things. And just being, again, aware of that balance. Like I love talking about the wellness wheel, like a holistic balance. Like what is out of order? What can I course correct in those tiny ways? I'm huge. I probably say this in almost every episode, it feels like, but about micro adjustments, those 1% improvements that a lot of people out there talk about. So yeah, those small steps to letting go involve those things. So assertiveness, boundaries, balance. If I were to break those down into that. But fear is a big thing. Like, as you know, there's a lot of layers to fear. And again, that can go back to wounds. Like, okay, well, have you addressed your past stuff? Have you addressed trauma? Do you even know what that is? Like we talked about minimization. Most people come into the office and they say, well, it's not that bad, or I haven't really had anything. And then they give me this laundry list of massive things. And I was like, I don't know what your definition is, but this seems pretty significant.
Yes.
But,
so true. That's funny. And even as I'm a weight loss and mindset coach for women, but I do that. I minimize the life experiences I've went through. And I do that, even though I teach my women not to do that. It's just such a common thing that we do. We try to minimize it. I don't understand why we do that. If we do that because we want to make other people feel better, or we don't want people to feel sorry for us, or we don't want to take up space where we're making them feel like they need to worry about us. We just don't want that. I don't know why that is, but my whole point is that I even do that still to this day, where I try to minimize the traumatic experiences that I've had in my life. So if anybody's listening, please know it's common, it's normal, we all do it, but it's important to overcome it, because if you don't, that's where the healing doesn't happen. That's that's actually for my women, the very first thing that they do coming in the program is we've got to heal. Without healing, we're just going to continue to stay in that broken hamster wheel and nothing changes. So
absolutely. And do you mind? I actually have another quote that's sort of passing, but not completely, but it's still a great quote. Do you mind if I share another one?
Sure.
Okay, so this just reminded me of what you're talking about, of almost that playing small, like that doesn't serve anybody. And this quote was just so transformational for me. And it actually comes from a really long one. And even Nelson Mandela quoted this quote, but it's actually not from him. And I go back to it over and over, and I almost use it as a mantra for myself to remember to lean in and to let go of some of those things. So it does apply. Hopefully you can connect it when I read this. But this is by Marianne Williamson, and she said, "Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be?" I love this part. "Your playing small does not serve the world." So beautiful. There's
Yeah.
nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. And this part I love too. We are all meant to shine. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others.
That is beautiful. I love that. I love quotes. I'm a very big quote person. All of my tattoos actually are all about just there's quotes and things like that. So they're my lifeline. They're what gets me up and out of bed and moving forward on my most difficult days is just reminding those quotes. And one that I love, it's actually Joseph Campbell. It's a new one that I happened upon, but it's the cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek. And it's so true though. I love it. And it's what I talk about. It's what I've learned. It's like that cave is scary as hell, but the treasure you want is right there and it's going in. And the other quote I always say, the only way out is through. And I think that those go hand in hand of once you go through it, that's where you find that treasure.
I just love this quote, Pretty. I feel like I need to read. Here's another one. When we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. And that's by Viktor Frankl, he was a prisoner in the Holocaust in the concentration camps. Anyway, yeah. So maybe we should just have a quote party sometime. I'm really liking this.
I think that's great. Back in the day, what did they used to do? You would get people's addresses and you'd send them gifts or something like that. I can't remember what it was, but it should be like a quote thing. It's just you just drop quotes every once in a while.
Oh, I love that. Great idea.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure somebody else has had that idea. I don't know, but I'm just saying. Oh, I have loved this. I have no doubt that my listeners have definitely gotten some really powerful nuggets of information from you, some inspiration. I'm going to put your links. You've given me a lot of awesome links where everyone can find you and come to speak with you, to seek more of what you do, to find out information. And I'm excited for them to learn more about just who Kendra Nielsen is and what she does and why she's powerful and what she does. Anything that you want to say in closing before we end this episode? What would you want most for my listeners to hear from you in closing of this episode?
I guess you shared some juicy quotes already, so I won't end with a quote, but I think I will go back to that moment, that visual of comforting your child self. And there's some people out there that are rolling their eyes, I'm sure, oh, that's so hippie, whatever they're thinking, I don't know. But my favorite moments in life are having these grown men sobbing in a counseling session, eyes closed, thinking about this child self and mourning with them. I want you to give yourself permission to find that stillness, whether it's a journal entry or even a walking meditation or your own, whatever it is, however you can nurture that child self and validate those feelings and heal those wounds. So then you can take that step forward into that darkness, that step into the unknown, where you become your higher self, where you commit to reach for something more, who you were made to become, who you know in your heart of hearts is dying to get out, is dying to become more than they are now, to let go of that mediocrity, that complacency, that cultural norm, not without that heaviness, but with that joy and that excitement to finally progress, to lean in such a beautiful way. And I guess that's what I would just say, reiterating the importance of that. You can't sidestep that and really have true fulfillment in your life. So yeah, that's what I would end with, I'd say.
I think that's the best way to end it. I love that you're encouraging everybody to find fulfillment by being their true self, embracing their authenticity and being empowered to take that step every single day with your own opinions, your own thoughts, your own feelings, your own emotions, all of that being just you. I love that, which is really, I guess, being the change you need. And I should ask you that. What do you think that means? What do you think it means to be the change you need?
If we want to see the change, if you want to be the change, then it's not just about consuming what everyone else has created, but putting your own thing out there. Even if you think, oh, this has been created so many different times, there's something that you can bring to the table that no one else has. In your sphere of influence, there's people that need you. So be that person by taking that tiny little baby step forward. And that's what I would say it means for me.
I love it. We're going to end there because I think that's the best way to end it. That was beautiful. Thank you so much. Thank you, Kendra, for being here. Thank you for sharing your thoughts, your love, your expertise, and just you to all of my listeners. I appreciate that.
Oh, thank you for having me. It was a wonderful discussion and a joy. So I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for joining us. As always, check out our new blog. And if you are interested in being an intern, look into it on fulfillmenttherapy.org. And please check out the show notes to find us in all of the places. And before we go, please be sure to mark it onto your calendars of our 3 new courses that we will be releasing in January 2025. Thank you so much and have a wonderful day.